everybody?
Listen, it was an interesting weekend, but we're back here. Listen, early voting has started.
Yes, starting on Saturday.
Saturday. Everybody's on the campaign trail. People at different because when it's early voting, we can vote anywhere, right, Sandra? Yes, we can vote anywhere. So there's a lot of candidates in different precincts. So make sure you all go out there and say hello because they have representatives or they're out there voting. So thank you back from coming watching our channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. You know, we are political, well, semi-political, sort of kind of political. I don't know.
Social, informative, all of that.
Especially with our community, because we want our community to participate in the political process. I think it's vital. So we're here with another candidate who's running for school board, and this is for District 8, which is county-wide, right? And we have Dr. Alan Zeman. Did I say that correctly? Or Zeman?
That's it, Narnique. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Z-Man. Peace cake.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm glad I said that. I didn't want to butcher your name. And Sandra is our co-host. Sandra, you can say hello, and then we'll go into...
Hello, everybody. Early voting started in Broward County on the 15th. Date in Broward started on August the 8th. You can early vote up until August the 21st at any location throughout the county. I live out west, but I voted at ArtServe on Saturday. You kind of was in and out. I think I checked the SOE site, and it said about 100,000 folks have voted. Most of them were vote by mail, about 95,000 and vote by mail. 15,000 people went into the early voting site. So y'all need to go in and vote. Elections are very important, and we all know that elections have consequences. So you can vote up until the 21st. Not on the 22nd on Monday. It's a no. August 23rd is the absolute last day you can vote in these primaries. It's very important. Your vote is your superpower. So make sure you go ahead and do that. I took that from Narnique. So make sure you vote, last opportunity. And then on August the 23rd, when you go vote, you actually have to vote at your voting location. So whatever is the place that's on your voter's registration card, that's where you have to vote at your polling site. But now during early voting, you can vote anywhere. If you still have your vote by mail ballot and you did not turn it in, please go and drop it off at the monitored drop boxes. There are people at all of the drop boxes while they're there. And so you can go ahead and drop it off there. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Governor, for these monitored drop boxes. But anyway,
there's always somebody there, so don't make it. And usually they said a manned, but I've seen women there, so I didn't want to say manned. That's why I said monitored. But there's always somebody at the drop box where you go and you drop off your vote by mail ballot.
Yep. All right. So we're going to turn it over to our guest, and we're going to let him introduce himself, and then we'll go into some questions. So Mr. Zeman, Dr. Alan Zeman, you have the floor. Please introduce yourself, give us a little bit background of you, and tell us why you're running, and then we'll go into some questions.
Oh, thanks, Narnique. I've done this a few times, so I'll do it quickly. But first, I want to really kind of second this whole idea about voting being your superpower. You know, there's people we run into, they have issues with the schools, or they have issues with taxes, or issues with anything. The superpower is to vote. Remember that there are huge consequences for who sits in those seats, who's on the dais, what background they bring in, what their capabilities are. And they're easy to get to know them. All of us have a website. All of us post our opinions, our thoughts, our beliefs about things. Even in a nonpartisan race, it's easy to figure out what party people belong to. By the way, I'm a Democrat and have been since 1981. I was on Bill Clinton's team for 3.5 years up in Washington, D.C. And it was some of the favorite years of my career. But my name is Alan Zeman. What you need to know about me is I'd really like to be on the Broward County School Board. I've spent a long time on school boards. I was on the Department of Defense School Board for 8 years. I was the chair of the Fort Lauderdale's Education Advisory Board for 5 more. So for 13 years, I've served on education boards. But for 8 years in the Pentagon, I ran the largest training and education system in the world, the United States Navy and Marine Corps training and education system. And I valued that experience. We were able to do some remarkable things from all kinds of technical advancements in the way we trained. We invented online learning, the technical standard for it. We invented a transcript for colleges to share, a standard for sharing transcripts between colleges. And we even started a college of our own that graduates 20,000 sailors and Marines a year. So that was a fun time. My last year working for the Navy, I spent as the chief economist in Iraq. I went over there and rebuilt Iraq after we invaded. And then after that, the State Department asked me to do the same thing with 55 projects in 28 countries, which I did until I almost fell over from exhaustion. And I retired from civil service and formed a company, which I continue to run today. So I moved back here 8 years ago. I was born in Gainesville, but I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. I went to school from K through 12 here at Dillard, Sunrise Middle School, Fort Lauderdale High, and then Florida State University for 8 more years, where I got a PhD when I was 24. I was promoted to the senior executive rank, Narnik and Sandra. That's equivalent to an admiral in the Navy when I was 32. I was promoted to a 2-star position 2 years later, and then a 3-star position when I was 36. All of those things never have been done before and never have been done since. So I moved pretty quickly through organizations because I like to join. I like to find what the big goals are, and then I like to find strategic levers that help us get us there. And I think that's what we need right now in schools. I think we need to answer the fundamental questions that our community is asking about why can't our children learn better? Why can't they graduate with the skills that they need to either go to college, go in the military, join a trade, go to work, be a technical expert, take some time off, whatever you want to do. But we have to figure out in Broward County how the number 6 sized school district in the United States can become the number 1 school district in the United States. I'd like to show the other 66 counties in Florida how we do it in Broward County. And then I'd like to go fight for some more money in Tallahassee so that we can pay people even better.
All righty. So Narnik has, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. That fantastic introduction. So Narnik has a question to ask, and then I'll go next. Go ahead, Narnik. Ask your first question.
All right, Dr. Zeman. So how can the school board be inclusive when the governor signed off on a law that only wants to protect quote unquote traditional families when the district serves students and staff made of different types of family structures?
Well, we have a big lever, to be honest with you, Narnik, that is not under the purview of the governor. And that's how we allocate the $25 billion we're going to spend for the 4 years that I'm on the school board. That's billion dollars. $25 billion will be spent over the 4 years after I'm elected. And how we spend that has a lot to do with inclusion. Where we spend it, on what programs do we spend it on? What are the programs that we sponsor in our middle schools and high schools in particular related to inclusion? And so those things can't change. I think of it as the proactive lever. We have governor kind of passing some nuisance bills trying to make a splash politically. We're really focused on what happens day to day in schools. And that $25 billion can be spent in a way to dramatically improve equity and dramatically highlight inclusion. And we don't do that right now. We don't look at the budget through the lens that we ought to be looking at it, which is how do we spend that money so that we allow for equal outcomes at all 241 schools. And let me give you an example of how we did that. When I was chairman of the Fort Lauderdale Education Board, we had $12 million to spend on parks and recreations. This was city money, and we were going to spend it on county land, school property, in a way that allowed the students to use it during the day and the community to use it nights and weekends. So we reached out to all 27 schools. We figured out what their needs were, and then we made a plan. And that plan was about how do we invest in areas where there were no parks, where there were park deserts, where there were 800 children at Dillard Elementary School and not a working basketball court. And so we funded those things in the areas that had the greatest need, rather than funding it where people had the greatest political capital. And that's what we need to do on Broward County School Board. We need to fund the schools that have the greatest needs. We have mold in schools. We have schools that if you drive by, you'd be embarrassed to drop your children off. We have schools that don't have awnings during the car line. But in the rich parts of town, where I happen to live, for example, there's awnings everywhere. We got awnings virtually over every kid, no matter what they're doing. But you drive to West Fort Lauderdale, you drive to 33311, you drive to Coral Springs in some places, you drive to Plantation or Deerfield Beach, and you see fundamentally different facilities. And guess what, Narnik? That also is translated in terms of teacher quality, administrator quality, resources available for the students, books in the library, paint on the walls, mold not in their school. And we have to be serious about that. We have to do an audit on day one when we take the office and figure out where there's real needs in our schools. And that's how we put inclusion, and that's how we put equity back into the system.
Okay, so the $25 billion you talked about, you mentioned that it depends on what programs you spend them on and where you spend the money. So give us an example of a type of program that you would spend money on to be inclusive of all the students that are represented in Broward County.
Well, there's a number of programs, Sandra. We don't have enough time to list them all, but we have inclusion programs. We have programs about how gay students and straight students can get together. They have a gay-straight alliance. Why don't we have that in every high school? Why isn't there a representative on the faculty or on the administration of every high school that sponsors such a program to allow people to have open and honest conversations about their sexuality? Those are the kinds of things that cost very little money, but have huge impact. I believe that we have to fund mental health fundamentally better so that people feel centered, they feel present, they don't feel like they need to come covered up to school. Many of those things are inhibited by mental health issues that people carry around. And if we had more psychiatrists, more psychologists, more counselors, I got to tell you, Sandra, one of the saddest things I ever learned in education is that we don't let our guidance counselors counsel children full time. They work the car line. They do testing assessments. They end up being teachers when you can't get a substitute teacher. You grab the guidance counselor and all of a sudden they're teaching history. And we have to put an end to that. We have to treat guidance counselors and anyone related to mental health in the same category as speech pathologists, school psychologists, and some other occupations that are fenced off from principal task assignments. They're only allowed to do the things that they are trained to do. And I think counselors need to be that. That's a decision we can do on day one. Then we got to reallocate some money. We spend way too much money on things like headquarters. We spend way too much time having teachers who are fully certified in headquarters doing staff jobs. We have tremendous opportunities to move that money around, to do gay-straight alliances, to do other programs that show, Sandra, the proactive way that we can do things better. And we got to fundamentally probably double the amount of money we spend on mental health.
So the question, so would the Gay-Straight Alliance, if they did put something like that in a high school, would that be contrary to the law signed off by the governor that came into effect July 1st?
No, Sandra, it's not. Again, what the governor's doing is some things that look very good to a very small number of people for some political ambitions, as far as we can tell. They don't have a big impact, but they're insulting. They marginalize organizations and groups within organizations that are already marginalized, who have huge suicide, depression, other issues, and it's a heartless, harmful thing that they're doing, but it turns out not to have a big impact. There's other things they do that are being sponsored by the governor that have a tremendous impact, and those are the things that we have to fight about. We have to be strategic in how we spend our money and the programs that we endorse, like Gay-Straight Alliance and many others, and then we have to figure out how to proactively do something that's 10 or 100 times bigger than the little tiny things that the governor's office is doing.
Absolutely. All right. So one of the big things that, there's concern about, there's a referendum, if that's what they call it, that's on the ballot about whether or not the taxpayers should give them some more money for them to give the teachers a bonus because it's not part of their pay. Because, so what can you do as a school board member, or do school board members have any impact on how teachers are paid? What can you do about teacher pay? Since it's such a big issue, there's a shortage, all that. So what can you do as a school board member with regards to teacher pay?
Well, we can do a lot. And let me connect these two issues that you brought up. The referendum is an opportunity for us under an expiring tax rate, 1/2 of a mil. The referendum coming up just next Tuesday, August 23rd, is to expand that to a full mil. So it doubles the amount of tax that's paid to Broward County schools. It'll generate in the first year $277 million, a lot of money. Even in an annual budget that's $6 or so billion a year, $277 is a lot, because it has to be spent on things that matter the most: mental health, school security, and staff salaries. So those monies are available. The average teacher gets $4,600 from that referendum. So it is a significant amount of money. It helps us a lot. And one of the reasons we need it to pass, not that we think it was put together in the right way, but the reason we need it to pass is the county to the north of us, Palm Beach, and the county to the south of us, Miami-Dade, have both passed the referendum in their counties, and they're paying teachers more. And so we're going to lose teachers to Palm Beach and to Dade County, Miami-Dade, if we don't get this passed. Now, this was not done well. The estimates for the amount of revenue it was going to generate were wrong, and they were corrected just a few months ago. the communications plan to get the word out to the community, I think was done poorly. But this is a referendum that we need. The biggest issue with the referendum, by the way, I've been standing in the poll for 4 days. I'm surprised I didn't see you at Art Serve, by the way, Sandra. I was there all day on Saturday. Maybe we did see you.
Yeah, I got there later in the evening, and I was in Coral Springs earlier in the day.
Oh, yeah. I love to watch people come vote, man. It is it's such a wonderful experience. But when you connect with people, you start to get trends from them. And the trend that I got on the referendum was they don't trust this current school board. And the retort to that is, it's okay, the cavalry's coming. 6 new people will be on the school board, and they'll be notified of, some people will be notified they're going home, and some people will be notified they got a new job on Tuesday night about 10 o'clock. Yeah. And I intend to be one of those 6 people. And because we're allowed to do that, we have been sharing ideas, all the 22 candidates, depending on who gets elected, on how we can come in and make sure that the monies that are collected through that referendum are spent as we promised. But we really do need those funds. It's going to be devastating to not have it, and it'll take a whole nother year of lost pay to the teachers to get it back. So I hope people do vote for it, but unfortunately it was kind of ham-handed in the way that it was rolled out. The estimates were wrong, and the communications around the monies and what they'd be spent on and how important it is, I think was late. And I think that the administration probably will do it better next time if we have to do it again.
So can I segue into that, because you talked about the communication wasn't really good and the way they rolled it out was wrong. Doesn't really that fall within the purview of the superintendent?
Well, let's be careful. I taught for 3 years for the National Academy of Corporate Directors. These were chairmen of corporate boards, chairmen of big nonprofits like United Way and Deloitte, and people like that would come to our class. And part of what you learn when you're teaching this is the relationship between a board and the operating unit. So the school board has got a job, it's enumerated in the law, to oversee and manage the operations of the school system. But the superintendent is the one that executes it day to day. And so there really is an artificial line between what's the board's responsibility and the superintendent's. And the current board wants to say that all they do is policy, but the law says they have to oversee the operations. And so when something gets out of whack, the board's job is to call them in, have a workshop, have a meeting, talk about whether they're meeting standards or not, and then ask for a remediation or a mitigation plan to get back to standards. And so they have to track metrics, they have to track operations, they have to watch what's going on. And most importantly, they need to listen to the 2 million people that live in Broward County, because they sense when things are off. And then they are the elected leaders that bring that set of issues back to the superintendent and her staff, which is huge, by the way. There's 30 to 35,000 people that work for Broward County Schools. It's the largest employer in the county. And then the board is in essence monitoring and overseeing everything that goes on. So for a board member, for example, to say that's on the superintendent is just not consistent with the way boards work. Boards are responsible for everything, and the superintendent is our hired gun to get it done. And our remedy, if it keeps not getting done, is we get a new superintendent. And
so let me cut you off. I don't mean to cut you, but so if the superintendent brings information to you as a board member, and the information is incorrect, and you called out the superintendent on the information not being correct, they correct it at a later date, which then pushes, what we're talking about with the referendum not being good in terms of how it's set out or whatever. At what point, who holds responsibility? Because at some point, to me, there is a blur in the line in checks and balances with the board and the superintendent, right? There's no clear, definitive where you could differentiate who runs what, because to me it's just like all haphazard. So you're running for office. I'm pretty sure you've been paying attention to the workshops and the school board meetings and all that other stuff or whatever. And quite frankly, we do too. And the superintendent job is to bring in information, make sure that the board knows exactly what's going on, but she's lacking in that. So my question becomes to you.
In your opinion, she's lacking in that, right?
Not my opinion. Based off her performance, it's not where it needs to be. That's not, I mean, that's on her. I don't, it's not my opinion. It's based on her performance. Okay. And so my question to you is, coming in as a new school board member, if you are so chosen by the people, what, if anything, are you going to be doing to make sure that these lines are not blurred anymore? The superintendent clearly knows what her job is, and the board members clearly know what their job is.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do when I get to the school board is I'm going to open a meeting and I'm going to say gay. So that's number one on my list. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read Florida law that describes what the responsibility of the board is and what the responsibility of a superintendent is, so we all know what it is. Then the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little Pentagon to the process. And I'm going to make sure that she understands that you get one shot to bring us misinformation and you won't get a second one. And so we don't have time in an institution that has roughly 370,000 students, K through 12, or adult students in the system, 241 schools, 91 public charter schools. We don't have time for misinformation. We are the board. Mm-hmm. And again, you get one chance to bring us misinformation. You better then start going to a different source on your team to get information in the future, because we just don't have time for it. Okay. And so I have very high standards for CEO equivalents. We'll see if Dr. Cartwright can live up to those. They're different than the standards that are being used today, frankly, on the board. There's a lot of delays. There's a lot of quick rush to making decisions, like a major reorganization. You know, we just did a major reorganization, Sandra, and the chief academic officer, who was by name appointed into that position, is not certified to teach. Now, can you imagine being a CFO and not being certified to do balances of accounting and the like? Can you imagine being a surgeon and not being board certified? Can you imagine being a chief academic officer and not being certified to teach in a public school?
Can you imagine, Sandra, you're being an attorney and you didn't pass the bar?
License to practice law.
No, but I mean, there's plenty of attorneys that go through law school and they don't pass the ball, but they
don't practice law. They don't practice law. They do something else.
But I feel, Sandra, that education is just as important as law. Mm-hmm. It has a huge impact on our community. I intend to make this school system the best in the nation because I want Broward County to be the best county in the nation. And I think the way you do that is to build up the public education system, the system that produces the workforce, produces the graduates, and you make them have no gap between their capability and their actual performance.
Okay, on that point.
Hold on one sec, Sandra, because Dr. Cartwright has been treated with kid gloves. The reorganization that I was referencing was given to them, released on public Friday night. And on Tuesday, how many questions did the board ask? Effectively, none. They approved a chief academic officer that's not certified to teach. And then they said, well, that's on the superintendent. That is not the way a board oversees operations. They ask penetrating questions. They make sure the evidence is brought to the board. They make sure that things are transparent. I don't think the people that she placed in those boxes was done in a process that would pass my standards, and I would not have approved that reorganization. I would not have put a chief academic officer in who is not even certified to teach. She may be very, very talented to do a lot of different things, but you cannot have a lawyer that doesn't pass the bar. You can't have a surgeon that isn't, past the medical standards. And you certainly can't have a chief academic officer of the 6th largest school district in the country that can't teach. And that's a simple question. And so things would change, and they will change with the new people that are coming to the board. Our standards are not the standards that are being used by the board right now.
So Sandra, when we had another candidate on there, remember that candidate said they had to go and look and check.
Well, so listen, we get in trouble when we start talking about the superintendent, and the candidates get mad because they're like, we trying to get them in trouble. So that's why I was trying to be like, okay, I ain't trying to get you in trouble, sir, but you said what you said, right? Well, yeah. When you're talking about having the high quality standards for, students in Broward County in terms of teachers and everything. So one of the things that the governor did today, and I'm sorry I keep talking about the governor, but somebody got we need some buffers or something, right? So he basically is giving incentives for like former military, law enforcement to come to teach in a public school system, and also other individuals that they can start teaching and be in school while they're teaching, because he said the standards that they have for teachers have been too high for too long, right?
Too rigid. He said they're too rigid.
Too rigid. Okay. So what are your thoughts on that? And what, if anything, can the school board do to prevent folks that don't have any types of credentials, because basically what he's saying is that you don't even need a bachelor's degree to start teaching, let alone getting a license to teach. What are your thoughts on that? And what, if anything, can the school board do to protect the students that are, in the school system?
So this is one that we do have to be careful about, just like the fake civic lessons. Right now he'll pay a teacher $3,700 to go to a new civics class that teaches slavery wasn't so bad, and we are in fact a Christian nation. So there are some things that are doing that have real impact. $3,700 class to teach lies to our teacher, that's a problem. And we got students,
because my daughter's taking civics this year. She's in 7th grade. We're going to have some problems.
I would suggest that you help her a lot after hours on what real civics is, not the civics that says slavery wasn't so bad. Slavery was a moral and black and white problem. It is a moral sin for one person to own another. And we have to own up to that.
Yeah, Texas was called it involuntary relocation.
I'm sorry?
Texas called it involuntary relocation.
No. They call it voluntary relocation.
No, It was involuntary relocation.
Oh, because they didn't want to go?
Yes.
I'm with you. But we can't. I think we should focus on Florida because those are some big things. The governor also has empowered military veterans and their spouses and their dependents to be eligible to be teachers.
Oh.
Now, the good thing is that principals do the hiring, and the principals won't tolerate that. I mean, they may be eligible. They may be in the pool of people that could be hired, but principals know what makes a good teacher. And oftentimes, almost always, it's a certified teacher who's got a degree in education or a degree in the field that they're going to study, particularly in high school or in technical schools. And they have to produce results. The principals are the mini CEOs for each one of our schools. And they make all the local decisions about who to hire, who not to retain, everyone from the cafeteria staff to the janitorial staff to the front office to the guidance counselors and the like. So they are not hiring these people. And so that's a good outcome in the end. We also found out today, by the way, I don't know if you saw it, Sandra, we've hired over 1,000 teachers from the Philippines in Broward County. Mm-hmm. And I hope they're not teaching English, right? I mean, they may be wonderful to teach computer science or physics or chemistry or other things. Who knows? And they may have
nursing. I mean, because there's an immigration visa for nursing from the Philippines too. So that's why I said the nursing.
That's different. I mean, the technical jobs like nursing, and many Filipino nurses have great English skills and they're good with patients and the like. But I'm worried that all of a sudden, with no transparency, because no one had ever heard of this before, we announced like, oh, we've just hired 1,000. I think that's the right number, by the way, Sandra. You have to check me. A bunch of teachers. And let's be clear about something. We do not have a teacher shortage. We have a pay shortage. We have a respect shortage. We have a honor shortage. If we respected, honored, and paid our teachers, we would have no shortage. And so what we have is a lot of teachers have decided to leave or not come back after several years or many years. Because they're not being paid well, they're not being respected, they're not honored. And part of that is they're being told by a governor what they can and cannot say. They're being told that they have to inventory their own personal library that they paid for or that parents donated, and they have to turn that list of books over to some government authority. They're being subjected to any individual in the state can sue them if they say the wrong thing. So they're scared to death to have the same kinds of conversations they've always had with students. So those things are insidious, and we need to fight against those things. And the way we fight against them oftentimes is to ignore them, and he'll threaten to sue us and hold our school board pay, which is fine. Partly, though, we have to make sure that people understand the real effect of these things. Some of them are truly insidious. Teaching that we are a Christian nation or that slavery wasn't so bad, that is awful. We have to fight like heck for that. Some of the other stuff that he just wants to make announcements and who gets eligible to teach, it turns out not to have a huge impact because our principals, make very good decisions about who to hire because they need a really high functioning team to achieve the academic goals that are set for them.
Thank you very much. And I know you had a hard 30 minutes and we're like right on the time. I don't know if you want to answer another question. If not, please tell people how to get in touch with you and, how they can donate if but I think they can only donate until tomorrow, but you can confirm me on that and how they can find more about your platform before.
Why don't we keep going for a little bit? You guys got some time? You want to do a little bit more?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Randy, you have a next question?
So no, he basically answered the question. So my question was, as a school board member, how will you reconcile the governor's concerns on the emotional impact teaching of American history to white students when you want to serve in a multicultural district? But you basically said you're going to fight like heck to make sure that this is not something that our students will not be able to learn and know the truth about our history. And so we appreciate that question.
And Monique, don't forget that we have a huge ability proactively to do things that matter with our students. We get to set the curricula. We get to pick so many things about what they learn. We get to pick the programs that exist. We pick boundaries. We pick principals and assistant principals and directors. And we have to make sure that we do that with some intentions. I still am shocked. And this, I spent a lot of time doing budgets in the Pentagon. I'm shocked that we still debate budgets after we started the fiscal year. We're doing a workshop in August for a year that started July 1st, right? So the decisions that you make can't really be implemented because you already started the year and you gave the FTEs away and you set, some priorities around the budget, and it'll get approved around November. And you're now 4 months into a 12-month fiscal year. So the fourth thing that I'm going to do when I'm on the school board is we're going to start budget workshops in January of the year before. And we're going to challenge the CFO to keep up with us because we're going to start asking some penetrating questions in January. And we're going to finish the budget in June so that when we start on July 1st and we hand the budget to principals and administrators and directors, they'll know exactly what they'll have for the whole year. We make them play a guessing game, and that cripples the decision makers. We have to call it out for what it is. We have to fix it, and the board needs to lead, stop following.
How do you get your fellow board members on board? Because that might be what you want to do, but you got 8 other folks on there. How does that happen?
We got them. I'm allowed to talk to every board member. Remember, Sandra, I've worked with them for 5 years. I fought for Stranahan's cafeteria. I fought for the policies and the objectives that we had that we cared about deeply in Fort Lauderdale. I've worked very, very closely with all of these board members, including Roz Osgood before she left, Dan Fogenholing when he showed up. They all have me on speed dial. We talk constantly. I feel very confident that the 6 new members and the 3 that will come back will work in a fundamentally different way. And the standards will be higher, the discipline will be greater, the accountability will be real, and people like the superintendent and the CFO and the chief of staff and the deputy superintendents will know that you get one shot to bring us bad information, and then someone else may be sitting in your chair soon. And that's just the way it's got to be. Education matters too much for a community for it to be treated in a casual or informal manner. That's why we're going to work on the budget starting in January. That's why we're going to change the budget fundamentally. That's why we're going to get, much lighter in terms of overhead and push as many resources as we can out into the schools where they're doing the greatest good.
All right. And how do you, and I know one of the things you talked about was equity. And I don't know if that was in this conversation or one that I had with you before. How is it that you're going to bring equity to the communities on the east side of town, for example, right? Because I live out west and, like you said, some schools have canopies and others don't, those type of things. Some schools have mold and others don't. And I know for sure, and I haven't even gone in and inventoried all the schools where I live, but I know it ain't no mold in none of the buildings around here, right? So how do we fix that in a reasonable amount of time, at least, with the 4 years that you're on the board and more, if that's what you want to do? How do you get budget for the east side of town or the schools out east?
Are you identifying schools out east as schools that have lower facility standards than some out west where you live?
Which I don't know if they're supposed to have lower facility standards and they're not being upkept, or do they expect something less than what they have?
So let's just say there's some haves and some have-not schools.
Okay.
But what we have to do is invest in the schools that are have-not schools, facilities-wise, learning-wise, in any way, libraries, technology. And we have to invest in those so that we get the same outcomes. And that's a dramatically different way to budget. Instead of saying we're going to give an equal amount of money to all schools, when we know that's not going to get us equal outcomes, we have to give disproportionately to the schools that are the have-nots. And the haves are going to have to make it up by raising money, by doing business cooperatives, by having partnerships, and making sure that they can get all the resources that they need to get things done. But the have-not schools need to be funded in a fundamentally different way. Title I does it through the federal government, but we have to take the state dollars and we have to think differently about how we allocate those dollars so that the schools over time have equal outcomes. And that's a disproportionate investment in the have-not schools and less of an investment in the have schools.
And is that something that the board can actually do?
Oh, we do it every year. Absolutely. I mean, you've seen debates about Stranahan's High School, and then you see Cypress Bay High School, and you see Weston, and you see some of the charter schools that we have that are just, 5-star quality schools. Why is North Fork? Why is North Shore? Why is Southside? Why are these schools that we have that are the have-nots allowed to continue to be behind in facilities, behind in terms of academic excellence, behind in terms of library resources, technology resources, coaches, additional resources to make sure that there's pullouts in different classes, number of clubs that they're able to have, the equipment that they have for athletic fields. We have to make sure that those things are allocated in a way to get equal outcomes, not allocated in a way so that we do per capita, senseless kind of budgeting. We need to be honest about the way we're going to do it, and we need to make sure that we invest in places where we have underinvested in the past.
Wouldn't that require you to do some creative budgeting then in order to?
No. You know what it would require us to do, Narnik? It would require us to do a little work. Mm-hmm. We'd have to figure out where the greatest need is, just like I did with the $12 million we did for parks. It turns out that there's some ways with some pretty standard analysis to find out where there are park deserts. And where there are park deserts, we put parks. But where there's mold, where there's facility problems, where there's roofs that don't leak, the Smart Bond is a great example of the way this board executed things. They got $800 million in 2014. Their first priority was athletic fields. The S in SMART was for safety and security. Maybe they should have invested in that first. Because in 2018, we had this Marjorie Stoneman Douglas thing happen. And at the end of that, one school board member said, oh, the 2018 year was one of the best years in Broward County. Give me a break. 2018 was the worst year in the history of Broward County schools. And the S in SMART should have been the highest priority. We got to make sure we have safe and secure schools first. If we don't have a perfectly straight white line down the basketball court, we'll figure that out. But we don't need to kind of brag about after the fact that we prioritized athletic fields, when in fact, our job is to do much more than just athletics. I was an athlete. I earned 12 letters in high school. I played so many sports. I loved it. But I would not have allocated that. I certainly wouldn't have bragged about it. And after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas happened on February 14th, 2018, I never would have said 2018 was the best year in Broward County schools.
Do you still believe we need to put more money into safety and security? Haven't we put enough?
We have not. But the money we need to do next is to get past the complaint. Remember, I'm a national security guy, so I lived security for my whole career. We have to get past the hard dollar fixing kinds of problems, single point of entries, camera, chain link fence, that kind of stuff. And we have to make sure that the lesson of Uvalde is learned in Broward County. Remember, the shooter in Uvalde walked through a door that everyone in the school knew had a broken lock. And no one did anything about it. But you know why? Because they kept doing the same kind of drills we do, compliance drills. Here's 7 steps. You stand over here, someone pulls the alarm, you walk through your 7 steps, great, 20 minutes is over, everybody goes back. We have to get past compliance and start to get into systems thinking. Why would a door in Uvalde, Texas, at that horrific site, have been left broken for 3 months? And not one teacher, not one custodian, not one administrator, not one director, not one superintendent made sure that we would report these things so that we were safe. And that's the kind of investment we need to do next.
So
we need
part of that is because they thought they were safe.
And go to systems.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but part of that is because they thought they were safe, right? And what I mean when I say that is some communities give people a false sense of security, right? They think like things won't happen to them. And I think that's part of what happened at Parkland. At least when you think about the police officer that was assigned to that school, I think he went there because he thought nothing was going to go wrong, right? He's in his last 3 years of BSO.
It's Parkland.
Like,
what could go wrong?
It's Parkland. It's all good. Yeah. Like, what could happen here? Nothing. And then something extremely tragic happened there, right? And I'm not blaming any of the people in Uvalde for like what happened, because that was a horrible thing. But sometimes what happened is folks get lulled into this false sense of security and safety, and that nothing's going to happen in their neighborhood until something happens in their neighborhood, right? So, I think
here's what we have to be honest about, Sandra, and you can read about this in all of the reports that have come out since Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. But we have to recognize that there are people who are unstable in our society. And those unstable people now want to kill our children. Okay? So let that soak in a little bit. Now, what are you going to do about it? You're not going to do compliance training. You're going to do systematic training. You're going to make sure everyone's aware of the threat and what they need to do, not steps 1 through 7. Everybody can memorize 7 steps, what they have to do. But it's when something happens that wasn't thought about ahead of time. Just to your point, you can't live in Parkland and not think that things won't happen there. And we have some really wonderful places in Broward County where there is very, very little crime. But all it takes is one unstable person and a car and a wicked military style weapon, which they never should have. And they can jump a fence and they can get in. And it's that ad hoc situation where we need people who are trained to think on their own and do things. We need them to be law enforcement. We need them to be administrators. We need them to be teachers and students and cafeteria workers. We need everybody to have eyes wide open all the time, thinking about this as a way to protect our children, because society now targets children in our schools. So accept that fact, and now let's figure out what we got to do. But it's not spending more money on the facilities. We spend a lot on that, to your point, Narneek. What we haven't done, though, is change mentality to a national security mentality. Everyone in uniform, everyone that's worked for the Department of Defense, walks out to their car every night after they work, and they walk around their car and they look for wires. It's just baked into the way we think. And we have to have that thinking in everyone's mind that works or attends or is around as a volunteer or as a contractor or a vendor around our schools. We have to be thinking about safety all the time, because society changed and these unstable people want to kill our children in schools. It has happened way too many times for us to think differently, and we need to wake up and we need to move out.
So one of the things that they decided to do was to allow wanding randomly in the schools. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good policy to announce. I don't think it is an effective security. You know, you can't do random wanding and think that that's going to make things safe. But if we do random wanding and we do other things on an unpredicted basis, you're starting to unfold systems thinking rather than just facilities thinking around security. Will it help? It'll help a little bit. Where it really helps is when you keep doing things that people can't predict. When you constantly are keeping the bad guys guessing about whether or not you can catch them, is when they're dissuaded from attacking the soft spots. So what we have to do is make sure that our schools are not the soft spots where unstable people will come and try and commit heinous acts. So
with the wanding, I'm just going to piggyback on that question. And I'm pretty sure you watched the school board meetings and workshops. How much of a impact did the community or stakeholders give in terms of the random wanding?
That's a good question, because
communities thought out and questioned about that.
This is one area where transparency may not always be as helpful as you want, because what you want to do is develop strategies, and you don't want a lot of people to know about them, especially the bad guys, right? Mm-hmm. And so in some sense, I could understand the transparency, but random wanding is one, where you could have rolled that out earlier. You could have talked more publicly about it. It's okay, because you kind of want people to know that you're doing it, right? You want to scare the bad guys. Other things you don't want to release too much. I mean, that's part of security, is there's a little bit of non-transparency in that. I'll tell you across the board, though, Narneek, this is not a well-functioning relationship between the board and the operating unit of the schools. The communication is bad. The trust is very low. They're not problem solving, right? They're not figuring out how research. It's Chicago. A couple years ago, they did something really cool. I just love it. They found out that in 6th and 9th grade, you could predict success in middle school or success in high school by the experiences of just the first year. You could almost perfectly predict it. And Chicago took that study, that research, and they reallocated the best teachers to 6th and 9th grade. And they've seen dramatic improvements in performance in middle school and graduation in high school. But I don't see Broward County School Board and the superintendent and her administrators having those kinds of discussions. How do we make generational leaps in learning happen? How do we teach technology, Narneek? We teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. We teach history and civics and the same stuff we've taught forever. But the world is adopting technology and data science in big numbers every year. Why isn't that our 4th core curriculum? Reading, writing, arithmetic, and data science /technology. We have to get ahead of the curve because our graduates are going to live in a world that's fundamentally different than ours. And our job is to make sure we think about those things, introduce them into the curriculum so that the people that we create in Broward County are significantly capable of going into the military, going to work, or having a career, or traveling the world, whatever they choose to do. But we're not having those kinds of interesting conversations. We're talking about giving a sidewalk over to a city because the city promised to maintain it. And we talk about that for an hour at the workshop. That's not a functioning board plus superintendent staff, plus an auditor, plus a general counsel. When you see a functioning organization, you know it's very different than the one that we have today.
All right.
And you didn't even ask me about the grand jury.
You can make a comment about the grand jury. What do you think?
Where's the report?
What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts?
I think they're fighting to keep it out of the public. Fighting to keep it out of the public at least until after the primaries or even the election.
Let's be honest, though. There's going to be multiple people who are going to lose their job when the grand jury report comes out. Because we all know, because the District Court of Appeals told us, that the report contains a recommendation for the governor to remove multiple people on the Broward County School Board for malfeasance. And so fighting this through the courts is a way to protect your job. It's a way to keep the public from knowing what the grand jury found, and really to cynically say things like, we'll let the voters decide, when at the same time you're fighting to keep the grand jury report out. It's been hidden for 16 months. We need to get it out. We need to get over the pain. If people need to be relieved by the governor, they need to be relieved and removed. But let's do it before the election so that we don't let Governor DeSantis appoint people to positions where they would stay on our Broward County School Board for 2 years because of this legal wrangling about keeping this out of the public eye. And so 2011, we had another grand jury that said that they would fire the whole board if they were empowered to do it. This grand jury in 2021, when they finished up their work 16 months ago, said they would they'd recommend the governor fire multiple members for malfeasance. Let's get the information out so that people can see it, and then let people have democratic institutions like elections go through when everybody gets to see what happened, and then we'll decide what the right 9 people are for the school board. This is a big deal, and it's kind of dropped off the radar for a little while, but I don't think a grand jury recommending the governor fire locally elected people is a small thing. I think it's a big thing. And I don't think it's fair that the lawyers have gotten involved in holding this from the public for so long.
Well, lawyers just do what the client wants most of the times.
I'm with you, but there's a way to do appeals quickly because it's in the best interest of society to get them done. There's as you know, Sandra, as an attorney, appealing something beyond the District Court of Appeals is generally futile. You got to argue that the judge didn't understand the law. You can't bring any new data or facts to the Supreme Court. The chance of success is virtually zero. And so it's a delay technique. And yes, you can hire a lawyer and they will do that for you. But the people who hire those lawyers are doing a disservice to society by doing that. And I think it disqualifies them from serving on the school board.
All right.
Well, maybe the people will figure. Well, people don't know exactly who they are, but hopefully, like you said, there's 6 people who are up, and they won't return. I mean, at least with District 5, that person's not coming back. District 1, that person's not coming back anyway. So there'll definitely be somebody new in 1.
There'll be 5 new ones because those are open seats and the incumbent's not running. And there's one where in my race where I'm running against an incumbent, and I think there'll be 6 new people. But
I think Nora's running, right? Nora Rupert is running for her seat.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's 2. It's 4 that are maybe no one's there, but 2 of them, the people are trying to run for their seats again. Right?
There's 6 election. I'm sorry, you're right. I think Nora,
maybe not counting that.
Oh no, and actually it's more than that because Al Herdef is already she's running for her seat too as re-election. Homeboy's like, I don't recognize none of these folks.
Yeah, it's an interesting race.
He probably doesn't recognize that one Republican that's running. He's like,
I don't know. Listen, it's a non-party affiliate, and we're gonna stick to that. But there are at least 3 incumbents that I'm thinking of. For him to say it's just one, I'm like, I think it's a little more than that. But okay,
you're right. But it'll be a new board. The people who can talk are talking to each other, and I think it's going to be exciting. But I've got 7 kids, and we run a pretty tight ship here. We've been very, very proud of all of our children and their achievements, but we need to take the family's kind of level of accountability and responsibility, where everybody knows what they're responsible for doing, where people love and respect each other, but we hold each other to doing things smart and positive for each other. We need to take that same attitude and apply it in places where it's not being applied now. It would be great, for example, if you guys would attend a school board meeting and walk away thinking, wow, that organization is really asking good questions and they're positively trying to solve things. They're bringing in new evidence and new research. The data are available for how things are going well by school, by discipline, by subject, by grade level. That's not what we have right now.
Employees come with all their paperwork, and no one says we have to go back and check to see if we can bring that information back to you. Everybody's prepared. That would be
Narnique, we're not doing, I was the president of my student body at Fort Lauderdale High School 40 years ago. And my meetings as a student council president of a high school were better than the meetings that we have now. I mean, literally, this relationship has broken down to a very, very low level of performance. It is, last week they asked the investigators whether or not they did something. Did you question this person? And they said yes. And then the school board wanted to check behind a sworn law enforcement officer to see if they really did it. I mean, that's the level of distrust there is between the superintendent and the school board. And we have to have complete and 100% trust. We have to know that the packages that they bring to us are factual and accurate. You have this in law, Sandra. What happens if a junior lawyer brings you something and it's got a mistake in it? They get crushed. You just can't do that. Right. But education is just as important as law, man.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that we run, in essence, a tight ship. I hate to say that as a guy that spent a lot of time with the Navy, but you really need to run a tight ship if what you're doing matters. And education matters to our community. And we have to do a better job of the way that we set policies, create budgets, and make decisions than we have up to this point. And I hope to contribute to that.
All right.
Yeah. We're excited about some of the things that you talked about. You touched some areas that we're just like, okay, maybe we shouldn't talk about it because everybody gets mad about it. So I appreciate the fact that
you know what? It's okay. It's okay to get mad. Just don't get ugly. Like if you don't like something I said, let's talk about it. I'm open to learning. I want to listen to the whole community. Remember, when I win, I will represent 2 million people. And many of them will disagree with me about many things. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we have to agree on is we have to find a way for the community to educate lots and lots of students in this big county. And that has to go on every year, every week, every day. And so we can disagree, but we can't be ugly with each other. And we have to both listen to each other. And let's see if we can figure out how to understand each other's positions and then what the path forward is. That really does what we all want to do, which is to create, children, young adults who are significantly better than they ever were when they came in. This is what we do in the military more than anything else. So we take people out of society, we put them through a military training program, and we pray that they go back to society better off for the experience. And it's exactly what we should be doing in schools. I want that gap, Narnique, between your potential and your realized achievement to be zero for everybody, whether you're ESE, you're on the autism spectrum, you're a general ed student, you're the world's greatest honors and gifted student. 2 of my children have disabilities, and I've spent a lot of time with them, helping them overcome the issues that come with their disability. So I know what it's like to be on the spectrum or have a special needs. But we can always agree that what we're trying to do is eliminate that gap. What's the difference between what you could do and what you are doing? And we need to provide the system that allows as many people as who want to eliminate that gap to eliminate that gap, and then move on and go do the amazing things that you might be able to do as a human being. That's what we're in the business of. We're in the business of creating human beings that think they can do anything. The superpower of education, right, is that they leave our institutes and they feel like they can do as much as anybody else in the world. That's the magic of education.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. All right, Dr. Zeman, you know what? It was a pleasure talking to you today. We appreciate your candor. We appreciate you answering questions directly. Yeah, we don't have that. Sometimes we don't get that. But we do appreciate that. And I think it's important for the people, especially those who watch our show, to understand that we have choices out there, right? When it comes down to elections, any one seat does not belong to a candidate. It's open. We have options. And I'm really, Sandra and I are really happy to see that there's so many options for the school board.
And it's too many good people at 8 though. I'm like, man, some of y'all should have ran somewhere else.
I don't know, man. I think
it's some good people at 8, and I'm just like, oh Lord,
there's only
that's one of the races where I think it's like, okay, I get, you're gonna, either way, I think you're right. You're gonna be in good hands, but I kind of wish y'all might have ran somewhere else. So, a couple of y'all could have made it on the board.
Yeah, I just got to tell you, that's the one time you and I disagreed, Sandra, because I think there's one candidate that's very different than the others. The only one that got the Sun Sentinel endorsement, the only one that got the Police Benevolent Association, the only one that got Dolphin Democrats. I interviewed for 25 endorsements and I got 24 of them, Sandra. I have 41 total endorsements, some, just individuals that wanted to endorse me. So I don't think that 8 is that difficult of a decision. I think there's somebody with the experience, the education, and the moxie to kind of right the ship and make sure that for the next 4 years, we're making thoughtful and intentional decisions about how we allocate this money and other decisions we have to make on the board.
And I'm not mad at you for saying that, because you're supposed to be your number one fan.
Right. That's right.
I'm pretty hard on myself. Sometimes
you at all.
Sometimes, Sandra, they ask in these interviews, like, why are you the best candidate? And my answer is, that's really not a useful question. I think I'm a qualified candidate, and the voters are going to decide who the best candidate is. We represent the people. Yeah. And if the people want one of the other 3 candidates, I'll shake their hand and do everything I can to support them. I just feel like I'm very different than the other 3. I'm different than the other.
That's true. You guys are different, but I think you guys both, at least the other person I'm thinking about, I think you guys will bring something to something good to the board that's needed.
Yes.
Either way.
Yes.
See, I didn't say any names though.
I'll give you that.
So Dr.
Tell folks how to get in touch with you. And
I know you're going to need volunteers, Dr. Zeman. Put your information out there so people can, at least volunteer at the polls for you while it's early voting.
Sure.
You want to spread your people out.
I'm really blessed, Narnique. We have 433 volunteers on our campaign team. We have raised well north of $100,000.
Very nice.
We're doing really well in terms of the number of people. We've already covered 45 polls for election days, where we'll have someone there for the full 12 hours. So you'll see a lot of people in Zeman shirts carrying Zeman signs, just reminding people that there's a power behind this campaign. There's this idea that we need to educate to save our democracy. We need to fight against the things that don't make sense, and we need to be disciplined about doing our day-to-day work. Yeah. And that is a different approach than the current totality of the school board and the administration has taken up to this point. So I'm tickled about that. We do need more volunteers. If anybody's interested, they can go to electalanzeman.com. You can leave me an email at alanzeman@electalanzeman.com, or you can call me. My direct number is 703-624-8536. And the last thing I want to say, Narnique, is when I win, I hope I can come back on this show and maybe every year just give you a report on what we've achieved and what's different about the school board and what's different about education after the election.
I think that is fantastic. And if you do win, we would love for you to come back and give us some updates, because I think it's very, very important that people, the community knows about what's going on with the school board. I think the school board has come into light here in Broward County because of what happened on February 14th. But I think moving forward, everybody wants to make sure that our kids get the best care possible. And I'm really happy to hear that you are a candidate that was willing to fight the governor and the nonsense, and is willing to put kids first, put staff first, put teachers first, put principals first. It's not the same old. And honestly, like, after talking to you initially, I was like, but after talking to you today, I was like, oh, he with it. He's with the smoke. He'll take all the smoke if he has to. So we are excited, and we hope that you do come back if you do win, and keep us all abreast. And I hope that you still also have that openness to still listen to the community when you're on the board, still take calls, answer emails, and even do, one of my things when I was running, I was going to do a tour of Broward County. I hope that you think about that, doing something like that throughout the year, not go visit a school one time, but visit all the schools as much as you can. I think if the schools and the community sees a board member out there on a regular basis, I think in terms of getting more comfortable and trusting you more will raise. And we've heard it from the community. We never see the school board members when they get elected. I think it's important that you're out there and visible. So that would be my only suggestion.
Well, I would like to have school board meetings out in the community. I think we go to Casey Wright building, we sit in the chairs, everyone's really comfortable there. The TV works, blah, blah, blah. I think every third meeting needs to be out at a high school in the community. Do it in Parkland, Deerfield Beach, do it in Hallandale Beach, do it out in the Weston, Southwest Ranches area, do it in Sunrise, do it in Coral Springs, and publicize it and really encourage people by the hundreds to come and watch us do our business. I mean, this is what's amazing about America, is that our political process was designed to be done in front of other people watching us do it. And yet we do it at Casey Wright. You know how far it is to drive in rush hour from Parkland to Casey Wright, or Deerfield Beach to Casey Wright, or Pembroke Pines, to Casey Wright through the traffic. And then, we're
people parking downtown.
Well, Sandra, we also treat people very poorly that come to our school board meetings. Mm-hmm. That room where we have meetings needs to be completely redone. We need to have a room with hundreds of seats in the back and a podium that's respectful for people that want to come and talk. We need to stop lending people minutes, by the way. There's nobody more important than anybody else. You want to come talk, you get 3 minutes. That's it. Nobody gets to lend you minutes, so you talk for 15 minutes. Who came up with that idea? I mean, everybody's important, and nobody's more important than anyone else. You could be a retiree in Hallandale Beach, or you could be a high school sophomore from Sunrise. You get your 3 minutes. You get to talk, and we get to listen. And hopefully you say something that moves us in a decision or moves us in a policy that makes sense. But at a minimum, we should listen. But I think we ought to have every 3 months a meeting out in the community at a high school in a big auditorium where the 9 of us are on the stage, where the superintendent is up there with us, where the staff's up front, and hundreds of people can come and watch us do our business. Every 4 years in Fort Lauderdale, when the city commission turns over, they go to War Memorial Auditorium and they conduct a city council meeting in front of 3,000 residents. And it's moving to watch them take motions, have debate, vote on things. And most of the time in the city of Fort Lauderdale, you get 20 people that go and watch a city commission meeting. But every 4 years after the election, when the new city commission and the new mayor come in, 3,000 people come. And it's a fabulous exercise in democracy. And I want to rebuild the trust with the community, which I think right now is frayed. I don't think the public trusts the school board. We have school board members, one of whom I'm running against, that go and stay at the beach house of a vendor and then come back and vote on his contract. Where's the outrage for that, lawyer?
I don't think people know that.
Oh, stop it. It was in the Sun Sentinel.
Like I said, I don't think people know that. Sun Sentinel don't let you read their articles online for free. Okay. And plus, people don't get the paper delivered to their house. That's part of it.
I'll read the article to you next time we get together, but you cannot go stay at a contractor's house and then come back and vote on their contract. It's there's things that are just wrong, and and you have to be serious about your role as a school board member. One of the principles is you've got to engender trust in everything you do, so that people will give you money to pay teachers. They will allow you to make decisions about things that happen in groups. They'll let you fight against banned books and fight against laws like you can't say gay to students from K through 3 and all the other 8 years thereafter. That law was written terribly. Again, you're a lawyer, Sandra, but whoever wrote that law, maybe it's impossible to write a good law that inhibits that kind of conversation, but it really causes great damage in our schools. And we have to kind of work hard to get that repealed. And we've got to work with the governor to get more money for public education. So on one hand, this is a political issue. There's things I don't agree with him. And then there's things where I'd like to agree with him. If he wants to give more money to public education, he and I will get along fine on that issue, even if we don't get along on the don't say go and the don't say gay.
But when you get, since you say you're gonna win, right? But when you get sworn in, so Nikki Fried will be your governor, and then you ain't got to worry about Ron DeSantis.
I'm a lifelong Democrat, so I will support the Democratic candidate for governor. But at the same time, we will still, with great likelihood, have a Republican Senate and a Republican state House of Representatives.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we have a Democratic governor, we have to learn to work together. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to have unsuccessful schools in their state.
No.
But what I'm talking about is different. I think we can actually rebuild Florida by improving dramatically our public education system. If we invested in education like Fairfax County does, like Chicago does, like some of the other school districts in the country, and we produced people who were dramatically productive, who were interesting critical thinkers, who understood technology, could do data science, were lucid in the literature that has been written before them. You think about an Amanda Gordon, this young poet laureate standing up at the inauguration of Joe Biden and recognized she was 19 when she did that magic. We need to produce more Amanda Gordons, and we can get people to their potential if that's what we focus on. And as a state, I think we could rebuild Florida to be a much better state if, in fact, we just invested fundamentally differently in public education.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. It was our pleasure.
It was our pleasure. Thank you so much. And we wish you good luck. And I guess we'll talk to you for the 23rd. We'll see how it goes.
I just want to make sure one of Sandra's favorite candidates wins. That's important.
Yeah, that's it. Just as long as one of y'all win, I'm good.
Thank you all. It was
I like how you flipped that, Dr. Zeman. That was good. I like how you flipped that. That was really nice. All right. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you.
You guys are killing it. I love your show, and you always ask interesting questions, and you too, and the dynamic that you have in terms of keeping the conversation going is absolutely miraculous. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye. All right, girl.
Yes, ma'am.
So we could wrap up now because we have done another show, but we're gonna wrap it up. You want to wrap it up?
Real quick. No, definitely. Yeah. Okay. Listen, I think the schoolboy gonna be in good hands.
I'm what I'm saying.
I'm just saying.
Boom, be in good hands. Boom. I was like, yeah,
they're gonna be in good hands. Yeah, if they, as long as like he said, 6 new members, they're gonna be in good hands.
Yeah, the only thing I would change, I think he's being fair by allowing the superintendent one shot, and with respect, I see what he's.
She already had her one shot.
I feel like she already had her one shot. I feel like they need to do a board item as soon as they all get on the board and be like, sister, you have to go.
I mean, he's giving her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she ain't know better. He's gonna let her know this is what you're supposed to do. This is your role, ma'am.
Right.
So he's gonna put her on notice. I was gonna put on notice. They were letting her slide. He's like, that those days is over. So you've been put on notice. Come correct the next time. So
I respect Dr. Zeman's thought process. I respect that because I see where he's coming from. But for me, if I was running, that would have been a board item. The very time I get elected, she got to go. She has had her chance. But I get what he's doing. I see what he's trying to do, and then and I like the fact that he's looking at it from a different perspective, as
because it is a business. People always get mad because they get all emotional about it's kids and it's school, but it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business, and you got to run it as a business.
Yeah. And I like the fact that he's about getting it done. He doesn't have time for the pleasantries. It's either we get it done or you got to go. And
because we kind of passed that, because every now and then you can have a shift. Like if everything is tight work and all the operational part of things are working, then you can focus on being nice, right? But right now, we can't worry about nobody's feelings. We can't be nice because we got to get down to the business of being efficient. And when you're doing that, it's no time to be nice. We'll be nice later.
I appreciate that. I appreciate his candor. I appreciate his directness because that's what we need. We don't need the same old. We got to move these things along. And when he mentioned about the budget, that was one of the things I talked about when I was running for office. I was like, why are we talking about the budget and school done started like 3 months? Like, what we doing?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that was concerning for me because, as a board member, you have a fiduciary responsibility. And why are we having the budget discussion when the school year is in full swing? What are we doing here? So I really appreciate
making people operate without the necessary resources. That's what they're doing.
All the principals got to guess how much money they have, and like that's ridiculous to me. Yeah. So that is, and I think that and he's right. It causes them to be crippled throughout the school year trying to figure out what they're doing because they don't have a budget yet. So that's important too. You know what I mean? Like that's So, but when he said 25, how much he said, girl? 20? Did he say $25
billion with a B?
Girl, I was like,
that was a whole B.
I was like, 25 million. And I saw your face. You were like, well, there was one part your face was kind of funky, and I wanted to know what you was thinking.
Wait, what was it about?
I don't know. You was rolling your eyes about something.
Yeah, I do be rolling my eyes sometimes. I'm not sure why I rolled my eyes because I appreciate all the responses.
5 billion. I think what you did was you made him clarify what would he be spending the money on in terms of programs.
Yeah. Okay, so I did take a note. Now that you remind me, I did take a note, and it was like when he said programs, there like where the programs need to be and what type of program. So I wanted some clarification on like what type of program, and that's when he talked about the Gay Alliance, which is something that I think is important because again, this whole idea of like having, gay students, gay teachers, gay administrators are part of the school board system. So you have to be inclusive of people that are in the system. Like, what are you talking about? You're trying to protect students from themselves? Is that what you're saying? Like, so
yeah.
So the fact that so you definitely need more.
One of the questions I forgot to ask him because he mentioned about the referendum that the average teacher would get $4,600. I wanted him to clarify what he mean by average teacher, and I forgot. I got sidetracked and I didn't get to ask him that question. But the number he mentioned, the $4,600, I didn't even know that was how much the referendum was going to give because I think when they did the breakdown and the superintendent sent out a flyer that 75% of that referendum was going to go to teacher pay, but there was no breakdown of like what that looked like.
Well, remember he said he gonna tell her that she got to come with the correct information because she had a history of not coming with the correct information.
That's why she
because that reorganization, part of what it was supposed to do was save people money. It was save money, and it may not be doing that. So and her list might not have been correct anyways.
Well, he alluded to saying that, not alluded, he did say that the amount was, there was some kind of money that number was incorrect and then they had to change it. My thing is that, that alone for me, because people have, there's some monies that we have to overcompensate for and all that alone for me would have been a board item if I were elected and sworn in. You have to go because you need to be able to give us this information the right way. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so somebody named Amy Shield says that the breakdown doesn't exist yet because it has to be negotiated.
See, that's.
She had a list with some numbers. Who knows where it came from?
But that's the thing. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Ms. Shields, in terms of the breakdown of if it's the organization,
like how much money each person's gonna get, like what they're gonna get. So
that's something she should have known before she even brought out this organizational chart. Like that's you don't just bring out an organizational chart and you just haphazardly bringing out stuff. I was about to say a curse word. Sorry, haphazardly bringing out stuff or whatever. That's not how we operate. That's not what we doing.
Well, it's not a good way to operate for sure.
Well, I'm just saying, like. Straight up garbage is what that is. So that's why she would have been
saying that it has to be negotiated. And if I thought I was going to get $4,600 and they give me $1,500, I might be kind of mad. And that's something that can be avoided, right? By just, being upfront and having your information like you're supposed to. So
but Dr. Zeman was right in terms of what the board does and what the superintendent does and how things need to be done correctly.
They don't know. They no longer need blurred lines.
Listen, the lines are so blurred, child.
Blurred lines not going to work no more.
I wonder if I could see it right because it's just so blurred.
It's gonna be a new prescription,
girl. I think I need to get a new because I just don't know where the superintendent power starts and where the school board power ends.
That last meeting I went to, they said there was like, well, if it blow up in her face, that's her business. You know what I'm saying? We don't agree, but since she said to do it, we gonna do it. Like, that's crazy.
You know what irritated me is that the board members had dissenting comments, yet they voted unanimously on the
there's like, we know the community don't like it, but we're gonna give her a shot and let her do it.
Where they do that at? And then
apparently in Broward County.
Ms. Shield responded. She said it's 78% of the amount goes to teachers, essential staff, but BTU and Broward County Public Schools have to decide which experience level gets amount. Okay, they just approved this year amount today for the last year of the current referendum.
Okay.
What you say, Ms. Shield?
That's what she said.
She said they just approved this year's amounts today for the last year of the current referendum.
Yeah, so maybe this the last year of the referendum. That's why they're trying to get another one.
Okay. Okay, maybe that's what she meant. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's still like that's
See,
still
the budget was done in January, like Dr. Zeman
said. Okay.
They wouldn't be talking today.
They wouldn't have probably approved that information today. Probably the principals going in and the teachers going in, they would have known.
They would have already known.
Thanks, Miss Shield. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Okay, we gotta get concerned citizens of Broward County. Gotta check that out.
Concerned citizens of Broward. Concerned citizens of Broward County. I think Dr. Zeman is affiliated with them. I don't know, but either way,
it doesn't matter. They're giving us some good information, and we appreciate you, Miss Shield. Thank you so much.
We appreciate you, Miss Shield. He was speaking facts today, honey. He laid down the law, and he was like, "We are not." He's like, the first thing he do when he gets sworn in, he gonna say the word "gay."
That's what's up. So we're in good hands. We're gonna be in good hands. We're gonna be in good hands.
We appreciate it. So,
all right, everybody, go vote if you haven't voted yet. Early vote is still going on till Sunday the 21st.
He's county-wide, right? So that's
county-wide. Group 8.
Broward County can vote for Dr. Zeman.
It's a nonpartisan seat, so it's on everybody's ballot.
Everybody's ballot. He's on the ballot for everybody. All 31 cities. Y'all go out. Y'all go. And vote.
I did see that. I'm gonna say I did see that red card, and they told y'all to vote for somebody named Mo Hilton. Please don't waste your vote.
Don't do it. Don't waste
your vote on that. Like, don't do that.
Don't do it.
Don't do that.
Random. I don't know what that is. But anyway, don't do that. Listen, vote for and you need to vote. This is why we do these things, so we can have these candidates come here and talk, because they are in a comfortable setting with us. We're not putting too much Scotch bonnet pepper on them or nothing like that.
Unless they request it.
And we don't have no problem doling that out. But if you notice how Dr. Zeman was talking, he was comfortable. To me, you can tell when someone's telling you the truth about who they are and what they're doing. So they're comfortable.
They know what they're talking about.
They know what they're talking about. He was giving out his information with no problem. There was no jumping and breaking up. So I believe that that's the real Dr. Zeman who was running for office. And I think that, he was upfront, direct. If that's somebody you feel that would be best beneficial to represent you, vote for Dr. Zeman. If other people that we had on the show was best to represent you, vote for that other person. But vote. Voting is your superpower. Do not let them make you think that voting doesn't matter.
At least what he said about there being 6 new board members. Okay. Do that part, though.
Do that part.
We want you to vote, but we want you to do that part. 6 new board members.
If we could get rid of all 9 people.
6 new board members. That's what we need.
That's what we would do. But since we got 6 on the ballot,
6 new board members.
People's up in there, okay?
That's what we
get rid of the other people.
At least do that.
At least do that. Okay. So District 1, 4, 5, 6, 8.
We missing one. Because it's 6 of them. Yeah. Is it 7?
I think it's 7.
Because it's 6 seats. So it is. I know it's 1.
Yeah. 1, 5. No, 1, 4. 5.
6, 8,
and 7.
Maybe 7.
It could be 7. I don't know. But anyway, 6 new people. That's what we're looking for. Okay. Let's get rid of the old regime. And he mentioned something about the grand jury. I don't know nothing about that. All I do know is
don't vote for somebody that's gonna get fired. Once the report comes out, that's what that was.
So that
don't
means
waste your time voting for somebody that's gonna get fired when the report comes out.
Get rid of the incumbents. Get rid of the incumbents.
That's what he said. Don't vote for somebody that's gonna get fired when the report comes out.
All right, because he said nobody talking about it. So we mentioned it. I don't know much about it, but if they got people getting fired, don't vote for the incumbents.
Don't vote for nobody that's gonna get fired when the report comes out.
All right. Well, we were happy to have Dr. Zeman, and I liked his fire, honey, because he wasn't playing no words. And I appreciate people that be calling me by my name and say it right.
That's right. He made sure.
He made sure he said my name right. I appreciate that so much. So we're gonna close on that note. We'll be back next week. We're probably gonna be back.
Yeah.
Will we have? Yeah, we'll have results by then next week.
Yeah.
We'll have results by next week. We'll talk about that and see what we feel about how them things going.
I want number smiles on my face.
Listen, I'm happy to get whatever victories we can get. I'm not gonna be too sourpuss about it, but yeah. All right, y'all see my thing back here. I got Nikki Freed. That's who I'm rocking with. It's up to you, but I think.
And you saw how he was like, "Listen, we just gotta learn how to work together."
He dodged that bullet real quick.
I was like, "Yo, you was like, ma'am."
Dr. Zeman was like, "You are not gonna catch me to say nothing."
He was like, "Well, that's why we gotta learn how to work together." And I was like, "All right, I ain't gonna catch you just did."
He was like, "You're not gonna catch him slipping. You was not gonna catch him slipping." Dr. Zeman was like, "Oh, so what we gonna do is work together. That's what we gonna do."
Whoever it is, okay.
Whoever it is. But the thing he did point out is that we're still going to have a Senate that is all Republican, and we're still going to have a House that's all Republican.
Yeah, but if all they bills going to get vetoes, they're going to have to get it together.
But I like how he spit that. He was like, flip.
He was like, whoever
work together.
Like, we're gonna mess me up, little girl.
And then you saw how he at the end he was like, "Well, we're gonna give Sandra her thing and get one of her favorite people to get." I was like,
"Hey, yeah. I'll take it. I'm gonna take it.
Yes,
I'm gonna take it."
Out here, I just like how he played. He just flipped the script. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna
take it." The man said he do strategy. What you mean?
I ain't mad at him. I like how he roll. I do. I like how he roll. Good luck, Dr. Zeman. We like how you roll, brother.
All right, vote now. Early vote is going on right now. Last day to vote is August 23rd.
Right. And the last day to do early voting is August 21st, right?
Yeah, the early vote is August 21st.
August 21st.
No voting on Monday the 22nd.
Vote like your life depends on it, because it does. It's your superpower.
It is.
Keep safe. Continue wearing your mask if you can. If you because we're still out here. We're still in COVID, so y'all need to get yourself together. And we'll see you all next week for where we reveal
results. The results will be in.
Results show. It's gonna be our results show. I'm hoping and praying that we don't have no runoffs or anything like that. And I hope whoever.
Oh, so you hoping all those school board people get like 50+1?
Hell yeah.
Okay then.
I want them all.
I don't know if that's gonna happen in C5. That ain't gonna happen. That's like 7 of them mugs on that ballot.
That C5 give me anxiety, child.
Yeah, so they'll be on the ballot in November.
We'll see. Hopefully
they're gonna be on the 7 people. Yeah, they'll be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
But, vote your hearts out. That's all we care about. Vote your hearts out.
That's it. But only vote once.
Yeah, don't. Marjorie Taylor Greene told people they need to vote more than once.
Vote one time. That's it. Just once.
Vote one time.
Just once.
Okay, one time. You can only vote
one time.
All right.
All righty.
We'll see y'all next week.
Good night.